Either an olive press or a wine press or something. This must be an earlier monastery infrastructure. This, I think, is water mill for grinding of grain. So, how does it work? So I'm guessing that the grain came down through here and into this hopper. And then they apparently controlled the flow of the grain right there. And it went down into that hole. And then somehow this stone was rotated on the stone beneath it. And presumably the grain finished, dropped in here. And this may have somehow been connected to the flow of water. And this is the water turbine, so this would have been connected to a shaft on the bottom there, and the water would have run underneath us here, which may be what some of this infrastructure here was for. Maybe water tunneled down through here, channeled down through this area. The grain storehouse. It's interesting that here in the floor are pieces of earlier millstones. Here we go further inside the monastery, and there's stairs going down. Let's see where they go. Probably down to the waterworks, which we don't have access to. I'm going to pan around. Hopefully I get this. But what these are wooden sewer pipes and instruments for plumbing. So presumably they took logs and hollowed them out. Interesting that they hadn't even picked up on the clay sewer pipes of the Romans. You have to wonder what kind of plumbing tools were these. That looks like a pair of calipers. There it is. Okay, here we can notice that they're hollowed out. This portion of wood is at any rate. Cart for the transportation of logs. Life was rough and mean in those days compared to today. But what's the surprise? There are long augers for some reason. Were they for cleaning out pipes? Or maybe for cleaning out logs, maybe making the holes in them. These are beehives. I think I've seen them before. But notice here, made out of reeds, or sticks rather, and then mud daubing. Be interesting to know if they had an infrastructure inside on which to build the hives. Here a firefighting water pump, certainly with wooden buildings, that they would have used up here because of the forests in these high mountains. Here a cauldron for boiling milk. You can imagine when these rooms were actually used. Whitewashed plaster, makes sense. Some of the costumes of the day. The heavy wool, I guess those coats are. Heavy things that Rebecca West talks about the women being forced to wear by their culture, that in themselves were a burdensome load. Milk churns or butter churns. The accessories of shepherds, probably a water canteen, a bell for whichever animal he was shepherding. Here are knives, it looks like, and clippers for the shears, or shears for the sheep, shepherd's staff. Here we can see how the plaster is applied, no big surprise. And here a purposeful shelf, whether it was for sleeping or sitting or whatever. Was this a big giant oven? Yeah, this would have something to do. This would have been the flour. Here maybe what you put the bread dough on to shoot it into the oven. Same with this very long device here, suggesting that may have been the oven. Sieves for sifting the flour, I guess. 50 years. Rather than a scoop there, but a scoop nevertheless. Individual loaves would be put in place. That device, ritual and communion breads. That makes sense. Pretty good feast though. And here is access to that big domed oven we saw. You wonder why here an arched access or a square one. 1860 year that this was made and used. Presumably somebody crawled in there and started a fire. Maybe, even more logically, if it started way underneath this somewhere, the heat built up creating this oven. Did they just put the bread on the rock and holding on to the device you see along it as you could scoot something in?